about it, but
哦，OK， 中间这3位 Becky、Jason 还有 Leo， 他们是从深圳赶过来的，开了差不多200公里是吧？100多
160公里
，160，哦 ，wonderful，Thank you，Thank you。请问一下，你们是从事哪个行业？
家具跟装饰。
家具跟装饰。
我们是做那个影像产品的，就是运动相机跟行车记录仪。
运动相机。OK，so you see， 我们有佛山本地的，有中山，最小的1岁，see only 1 year。Starting 1 year and learning, becoming your student. Yeah. Wow. Wonderful.
you can imagine that the world we are building today, we are building for them. Honestly, we are building this world for them, and they will grow to blossom to be some wonderful people on the face of the planet. And I also like to thank Ian. Right, Ian is coming. Actually, you see, stand up. He's a tall guy. But you see, he is coming from farther away than any one of us here. Well, he's coming all the way from France. I don't know if France is still a country. I don't know for how long France is going to be a country.
With your yellow jacket, with your yellow, you don't have your yellow jacket.
No, I have my yellow tie. I have my yellow tie, right? But this is in solidarity. This is in solidarity with the.
So nobody wear yellow, huh? Okay, that's good.
So thank you so much. Look, I'm going to share with you a few of my experiences around the world, but primarily in India. I've taught in India for the last 8 years, pretty much. I spent in India altogether probably about 2 years, more than 2 years. In China, I spent more than 1 year. I've been in China, and I'm proud to say that I've been in China probably in more cities than many of you have actually been into. But what I wanted to convey with you about India is this. It's a very, very warm people, just like the Chinese. Chinese are very welcoming. But of course, you need to connect with them, right? You will see, as a matter of fact, where is Jason? Jason, remember when we went to the furniture store? We've seen a lot of Indian people, right? A lot of people from India are now coming here, and they are buying furniture by the container load. Why not facilitate them to showcase the furniture on Globalbox? Forget about Alibaba. Alibaba is a nice site, but nowhere near as good as Globalbox. Why not put it on? Put this the products on Globalbox, and then all of India can see those products, and then they can buy by the truckload, by the container load, without them actually having to come here to see the thing. Jason was wonderful. I want to thank him, and I really want to thank him for introducing me to Ken. And as a matter of fact, today's discussion is because of Jason. And so I'm very, very grateful to you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm very grateful, and I love the opportunity to meet with people, to discuss things. So I'm going to tell you a few things about India. Beautiful country, good people. Of course, in India, like in every country around the world, or in China versus India, there are stereotypical perspectives. You guys understand stereotypical perspectives? Like you think that people are in one way, and it's true, yeah? But you cannot generalize. In a country of 1.3 billion people, you cannot generalize that thing. Just like people, thinking about China, they put this stereotypical perspective and they think that everybody in China is the same. Well, wait a second, there's 1.4 billion people and they're not the same. Even people in the same city, even people in the same province, they're not the same. So we always have this distorted perspective or perception about people elsewhere. I've spent a lot of time in India. I traveled through India quite extensively in many, many cities. And I see the same desire as everybody else. The desire to improve, the desire to grow, the desire to change their lives for better. And I think we can through collaboration. Actually, I have you may have seen that I teach strategy and a lot of things. And I tell you the 5 C's. And for those of you who have a pen and paper, maybe you want to write it down. There is 5 C's which I consider that will take you from being a competitor all the way to being a strategic partner with someone. Okay? And the 5 C's starts with this. First starts with competition. Competition. So we all compete against each other, ... Second C is co-opetition. Co-opetition. So it's some degree of competition, but some degree of cooperation. So it's called co-opetition. Yeah? As a matter of fact, there are 2 companies in the world right now which are constantly fighting, but they're still collaborating on some dimensions. You guys heard of this small company named Apple? You've heard of Apple?
Apple?
Apple. Pinguo. Apple. Pinguo. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's a small company. Have you heard of another small company called Samsung? Samsung.
Small company?
Samsung. They are fierce competitors. But yet Apple is buying all the screens from Samsung. So there is some cooperation there. So we start the 5 C's with competition, then we move to co-opetition, then we move to cooperation, where we start developing more stronger relationships, cooperation. Then we move into collaboration. Now when we collaborate, we are doing things together. And then the last one is coordination. Coordination. So that means that we are doing things together, but we are working as a team. You guys know, like a Philharmonic Orchestra? How do you say? Philharmonic Orchestra. Right. So in the Philharmonic Orchestra, you have many different players. But the beautiful sound comes only when all these players are playing the same music and when they are conducted by the same conductor. That's basically coordination, where everybody plays together. So we need to move away from competition slowly to co-opetition, to cooperation, collaboration, and then to coordination. Does it make sense? Only these are the steps that would take companies and countries from moving away from doing this. Talking about India, different culture, much warmer than here. Has anybody ever traveled to India from here? You traveled? Very good, very good, very good. How was your experience? Did you like anything, or what did you find totally crazy, or besides everything, other than everything? Traffic.
Yeah, I do in the Indian market 14 years, so
very good.
You can imagine how many times I go to India.
Wonderful. Which cities?
Yeah,
which cities have you been?
The people there is very hardworking, very, very hardworking. But I think our Chinese more smart, more clever than India.
Well, the Chinese. I can.
India is more confident than us. They can speak very friendly, very confident. We always keep silent.
Well, there is wisdom in silence. There is wisdom in silence, right? There is wisdom in silence. But I can tell you this. India has one major advantage. In India, everybody speaks English throughout the entire education system.
Not everybody.
Everybody. Well, not everybody, but the vast majority of the people. In China, English is becoming mainstream, but it's still not mainstream. The problem is this: everything around the world has to have something that allows us to communicate with each other. And that thing is language. We are here, and I am here in front of you, because we are able to communicate with each other in this language, in English. And English has become the language of worldwide communication.
Excuse me.
Please.
If this session can provide the chronic interpretation, that means the Chinese translation interpretation, then I would believe the participants would at least double or even triple.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, you know, because he can speak perfect Cantonese.
Wonderful.
He can speak such a perfect Cantonese that the taxi driver reject him. Hey, you are the foreigner. Just now, the guy who hired my taxi speaks Cantonese. You are not the right guy. That's him, you know. So language is very important in doing business, right?
So it's important to understand that thing. But anyhow, you know, very frankly, India is. And by the way, someone said traffic. Let me tell you something. I came to China first more than 20 years ago, in Beijing, and the traffic in Beijing at that time was probably worse than the traffic in Delhi. I was in Delhi just last week. So 20 years ago, the traffic in Beijing was probably worse. Things take time to improve. But the hardest thing to change, you know what's the hardest thing to change? The hardest things to change, is ourselves. That's the hardest thing to change in this world, is ourselves. Why? Because we are all firm believers in that we know better than others. Are we not like that?
Yes, everything.
You see, there is a very interesting analogy which says there was a test, and they were asking people, are you a better than average driver? Are you a better than average driver? 97% of the people responded that they are better than average drivers. But if 97% are better than the average driver, then the average is not the average is nothing. So you understand? But why? Because we always think that we know better than others. We always think that we are superior. You know, Chinese, they have their history. You've been on the face of the planet for thousands of years, with all the Ming and Ying and Qin and all the dynasties from, yeah? So you say, how can you, who's been here just for a few hundred years, like I'm talking the United States, how can you try to compete with us? Yeah? So we always need to look at things from the other perspective. You guys were seeing blue. Ken was seeing yellow. Were we looking at the same thing?
Yeah.
Looking at the same thing, and we're seeing two different. The problem with that is not that bad, because it's an object. So even the Rubik's Cube, you can see, you can turn it, and you can. But the problem is, most of the issues are conceptual. Most of the issues are in people's heads. And it's very difficult for you to see things from her perspective, because you've grown up in a different environment and you've grown up somewhere else, and so we look at the same thing and we see two totally different things. And it's very difficult to comprehend what people are thinking, what they're trying to say. So where we need to improve is in communication. Because once the barriers of communication gets brought down, then everything starts becoming more clear. You know, I was in China not too long ago, and a friend of mine from China said, oh, the Indian people are so nice, but it's so, they're eating with their hands. And I'm saying, yeah, you're right.
It's their culture.
But this is, and some guy told me, an Indian guy, I said, well, why? He said, in ancient times, where we had no way to heat up the food, we would do the food like this in the palm of your hand, simply because you try to warm it up a little bit, and then you eat it. And that got stuck into their culture. So there is some type of a rationale, some type of an explanation to pretty much anything. I don't like it. But they say about you, oh, those guys are eating with those sticks, the chopsticks. And they're saying, if I use the chopsticks, I'm going to poke myself in the eye. Because they, you know? So the stereotypical, I'm talking about the stereotypical perspective. Right, in Europe, I grew up in Europe with forks and knives and that sort of thing, right? And for us, it would have been just as difficult to eat with chopsticks as it would be for you to eat with some other thing.
Mike,
Yes.
do you use hands to pick up the food?
In some instances, yes.
Try, sometimes, right?
Yeah, but I'm also using chopsticks. Somebody told me that the epitome of using chopsticks is getting not just one peanut, but two peanuts with at the same time with the chopsticks. Wow. And I can get it, no problem. I'm very versatile. So anyhow, the thing is this: to understand a different culture, you need to experience it. You need to experience the traffic in Delhi, and to see all the chaos. But in that chaos, it's interesting. There are no major accidents. You see, in Germany, who's the best structured country in the world, based on my beliefs, my buddy Ian from France would say, no, the Germans not. But you know, in Germany, when there is a big accident on the highway, 50 people die. Why? Because everybody drives 150, 180 kilometers per hour.
In America also it says.
In America, they don't even know how to drive, those Americans.
I agree.
The Americans don't know how to drive. Actually, they are confident simply because they're driving big cars. So they know that if I'm in a big car, you know, all the small guys we're just going to roll over them. So but the problem is when everybody drives the big cars, then there is a big pile up. So understanding a different culture is important. I've traveled throughout India, and I'm always trying. By the way, I was in China, in Wuhan, a few years back, and we went to the Mulan mountain, and there's a temple at the top, and I'm always going to different places, and you know, everywhere. So then you start understanding the history, the richness of the culture, and only then are you going to be able to become more open-minded, more permissive to other people, to other cultures. So I think it's important to try to open the mind. By the way, have you ever noticed that we have 2 ears and only one mouth? Have you noticed that? 2 ears and one mouth. Why? Why